So, good afternoon, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. So, welcome to the January 25th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Sunshine Coast District, and I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:03 p.m. and acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District is within the territory of the Sechelt and Squamish First Nations. We have an amended agenda before us. Is there any further changes or additions to the agenda? No, hearing none. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Director Stamford, Director Gabius, and all in favor? We have an agenda. Thank you. We move on to minutes. And it's item number 2. It's special board meeting minutes of January 8th, 2024. Appendix A, pages 4 to 5. Directors, are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt? Director McMahon, Director Gabius, all those in favor? Great. Item number 3, regular board meeting minutes of January 11th, 2024. Appendix B, pages 6 to 10. Directors, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt, please? Director Toth, Director Gabius. No further discussions. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That passes. Is there any business arising from minutes or unfinished business? Nope, seeing none. We shall then move on to presentations and delegations. So it's item number 4, Calwiji Water Dynamics Incorporated. Did I get that close? And it's Inika. Okay. You want to try your last name for me so I get it right next time?
Galway.
Thank you. It's Annex C, pages 1125, and it's regarding the groundwater investigation phase 3. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Okay, well, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I'm going to present the results of the selection of test well drilling sites. That's part of the project Water Supply Feasibility Long-Term Groundwater Supply Sources, in short, Groundwater Investigation Phase 5. As was stated in the RFP, the study has been initiated to assess the feasibility of supplying water to a larger population in the area, especially during peak water demand, which is in the summer months, and during times when Chapman Lake is at its lowest level. And with that, to explore the possibility of securing additional groundwater supply to address the current water supply deficit and to create regional water system resiliency. So the scope of this investigation is a desktop review in support of identifying 5 test well drilling sites, the results of which I'm presenting here. And then the next step in this project would be the drilling and construction of the 5 test wells, and then followed for the successful test wells, the completion of constant rate pumping tests and related water quality analysis. So based on the field work, we will be able to determine long-term yield for each test well and its sustainability as a long-term water supply source, and basically to identify and prioritize the most suitable locations for further investigation and or groundwater development. So the desktop based inventory was really a review of available information, largely based on the provincial database. So kind of this shows is a map, and all the delineations are known aquifers. But just note that all these delineations are approximations. It's not set in stone. So the overall, the one with the blue colors are, so on the Sunshine Coast, including the islands, there are 24 known aquifers as per provincial database. Out of those, 16 are on the, I call it the mainland. And then out of those 16, 11, the ones that are all blue are bedrock aquifers, and the ones in yellow are sand and gravel aquifers. And then kind of the dots indicate where it is confirmed having aquifers with high productivity. So I just added this slide, just a little bit of an overview. It's a conceptual overview of aquifer systems. But just to emphasize that when it comes to bedrock aquifers, the focus is on finding the right fracture, and key to its productivity is the interconnectivity between those fractured rocks, fractures. So that, having said that, that also kind of indicates there's a little bit of uncertainty associated with test well drilling or production well drilling in bedrock aquifers, because it can literally be a hit or miss, because you can just pass that good fracture, or perhaps you don't go deep enough. So, but yeah, so this is a little bit of an overview. So in addition to looking to the general hydrogeology and areas that potentially have good water-bearing formation, there were some other key factors that were considered for further refining the test well drilling locations. For instance, land ownership. So ideally, land we can owned by the SCRD or perhaps the District of Seychelles. Proximity to existing water infrastructure. Ground elevation, and then as well the SCRD expressed a preference to explore in the Seychelles area. So the test well drilling was ruled out in certain potentially productive areas, and that was purely based on competing water demand as well as future land use. And through this, we went through multiple iterations to identify locations. We had various meetings with SCRD staff. But at the end, it resulted in shortlisting 4 areas. And then we will be targeting both sand and gravel aquifers and fractured rock aquifers, potentially then. So following all the different many iterations, so the proposed test well drilling sites are site 1 is Whittaker Park in Davis Bay, Proctor Bike Park downtown in Seychelles, Roberts Creek. Fire hall, so that will be in potentially targeting fractured rock aquifers. Site 1 and 2, we are targeting sand and gravel aquifers or water-bearing formations. Site 4 is near the airport. We will go through overburden, through sand and gravel. So while doing the test well drilling there, we can identify whether it is productive in the overburden or if we have to go deeper into the bedrock. And then Site 5, Kinnikinnick Park, that is again exploring potentially a productive bedrock aquifer. We have 2 backup sites. One is in Cliff-Gilker Park, and one is a property east of Chapman Creek, just north of Mission Park. So this just a table summarizing some information regarding each site. So as you can see, there's different land ownership will be either from the district of Sechelt or the SCRD. We target both sand and gravel aquifers as well as fractured rock. All 5 sites are relatively close to existing water system infrastructure. And then based on site-specific information, we revisited the targeted test well drilling depth. So again, when it comes to bedrock aquifers, we try to target deeper just to make sure that we fully explore the subsurface, right? So key next steps is step 1, we need approval from the district of Sechelt to undertake test well drilling at the Whittaker Park, Proctor Bike Park, Airport Site and Kinnikinnick Park. Approval from the Shisha Nation to undertake test well drilling at these 5 sites, and related to that, an application needs to be submitted to the archaeological consultant. And then in the meantime, what we will be doing is refining the actual drilling site within the locations identified, and that is largely based on logistics, the positioning of the drill rig, the space needed for actually undertaking the work. So the plan is to complete the field work, the test well drilling and the pumping test in the next couple of months, February to May. Then data analysis during the summer months, followed by a multiple criteria assessment workshop with the idea to prioritize potential future well field location sites. And then in fall, the final report and again, a presentation summarizing the results of the test well drilling program. This final slide just shows a bit of an overview timeline-wise, literally what it takes from siting a well, this test well drilling program, to ultimately placing a well or a well field online. So assuming we are successful in this test well drilling program and proceed to the next step or next phase, it will comprise of different components, including approval from the First Nations, again, various permitting requirements, the actual production well drilling at the selected well field or the proposed well field site, and then the related well testing, technical assessments, and the conceptual design pertaining to connecting the wells to the existing water system. And then the next step would be the water licensing, getting approval, again, consultations with the Shisha Nations, possible other studies. We don't know yet what that will be. The actual design and construction, everything related to connecting the wells and to the water system and related works. And then finally, the commissioning. So you're really looking at 6-7 years of work from start to finish. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I was busy following through here, so. Let's see if we could get you to stop your presentation so I can see all the directors here. Yes. Director Toth, you have some questions.
I'll start with one and then I'll put my hand back up. When you look at wells in the Sechelt area, looking specifically at Whittaker and Kinnikinnick Parks, I'm wondering if there's a plan to work with the District of Sechelt operations staff about the sort of optimal well placements. Even if a test well doesn't end up being productive and useful for the SCRD for water supply, there may be opportunities for the district of Sechelt to take over the well for park irrigation, things like that in the future, even if it's not suitable for drinking water. Thanks.
I think that would be a staff question. Yes.
That's certainly something staff could look at coordinating.
The answer was yes.
Apparently.
Yeah. Director McMahon, please.
Right. And talking of other uses, I was a little surprised not to see the Sechelt Arena site on that list of possible sites for test drilling. So was it looked at? And I take it was deemed inappropriate for some reason.
Go ahead.
Sorry, board will see a proposal as part of round 2 budget from the rec department pertaining to that well.
Thank you. Director Stamford.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if there is any relationship to the depth of proposed well and potential arsenic issues or saltwater ingress, or is that more of a question of what is being drilled into, like whether it's bedrock and sand and gravel?
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
Well, thank you for the
Yes,
question.
please.
Yeah, so well, the whole, you see, these are all questions we try to address, but the whole purpose of a test well drilling program is to find out, right? So certain things we will be doing during the test well drilling program to keep track on certain information. But at the end of the day, a primary goal is to find the productive formation, if that is there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Director Toth, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. When we look at the locations that are closer down to sea level, or the comment was made about saltwater intrusion, are factors. How heavily do we have to consider factors like saltwater intrusion, sea level rise that may come in the coming years? I mean, the Proctor Bike Park basically is at sea level. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. For sure. So again, that's part of the test well drilling program. So first is to really identify, is there a productive water-bearing formation? And then part of the assessment will be, is there going to be a likelihood of saltwater intrusion? So that will be part of the investigation to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Inkster.
I think Mr. Rosenblum had his hand up as well, just to let you know. I'm looking at these drill sites. Kinnickinnick is an interesting one because there's a lot of surface water up there right now. And it looks like you're putting your test well proposal near irrigation, it's basically an irrigation ditch, which is an indication of a lot of water probably collecting in that area. I'm wondering if you chose that one even after there was some suggestion of further into West Sechelt near Mason or Norwest Bay, if that's considered the same aquifer or connected to a series of aquifers. Because anybody that lives in that area knows that there's a lot of farmland that probably would have used some of the groundwater, but also too that there's hills in behind the community that most likely are, much like Elphinstone helps to the Gibson aquifer, that would help with the West Sechelt aquifers water collection. So the question is why we aren't looking at those areas, and maybe it's in future, the ones that I was mentioning, Mason, Norwest Bay, but also is it part of the same aquifer, and I'm assuming there's a lot of water in the Kinnickinnic area because I'm noticing a ton of groundwater right there, and trails and et cetera, fields. Thanks.
Thank you,
please.
thank you. So again, so the whole purpose is in the Kinnickinnic Park is addressing, exploring the bedrock formation. We know there's an overburden, sand and gravel formation, till layer. We don't know much about its productivity. So while drilling through, we will document the information and see what's there in terms of productivity as well as the overburden. But I suspect that we will go deeper and target the bedrock aquifer. Whether or not that is related to another aquifer, that's always a challenging question to answer up front. So perhaps hopefully the test well dwelling program will give answers to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Director White.
I thought that Director Inkster may have stolen my question, but there's a little bit of overlap, so I can follow up on, on his question. And just simply, like, why not further west? I hear the same things about just when anecdotally about a lot of groundwater showing up in the West Sechelt area, even further over Area B, and it's kind of just anecdotal local wisdom that people speculate a lot about a lot of groundwater, possible aquifers there. So why is Kinnickinnic the furthest west?
Part of the consideration that affected the selection of sites is just existing infrastructure and proximity to existing infrastructure. So while there might be some interest in sites further that way, the infrastructure in those locations is not easily accessible. So we weighed those in relation to potential productivity sites.
Director Inkster. Please. Yeah, your hand's still up, so.
Just thanks for that. I'm glad that Jesse kind of sort of chimed in here because he was sort of nodding when I was asking about the West Sechelt. He's probably fairly familiar with the area. Could you just tell us a little more about infrastructure that's there? I know that the golf course has built its own reservoirs over the last number of years, so they're obviously using their own water more recently. Once again, as an indication of the amount of water that's up there. But what infrastructure are you referring to? Do you mean, because they would all be maybe, are you meaning our irrigation system that's at the field, or is it something else? I know there's a fire hydrant up there, if that's what you're meaning as well. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, just specifically speaking to like existing mains and transmission infrastructure. If we go much further west, we're getting farther away from existing large mains.
Thank you. Director Inkster, you have another question?
No, I'm lowering. Thanks.
I have a question. Actually, it's a curiosity question. I hear about going into sand and gravel, and then I hear about overburden or into bedrock. Would you consider the sand and gravel the overburden aspect of it?
Yes, correct. Sand overburden refers to the sand and gravel, everything what's above the bedrock, the sediments, yes.
And so a follow-up question to that is, when we do put wells into the sand and gravel and we become happy, it's probably over-fractured bedrock as well. Is that common or is that unusual?
Typically beneath sand and gravel formation is bedrock.
Just solid bedrock
yes,
usually?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. The reason I was asking is I'm from Area A, and we at some point might be drilling wells up there, so kind of curious.
Yeah.
Directors, do you have any more questions? No? Okay. So, well, thank you for your presentation. I think we're all great. Great, thank you. And directors, I need a motion to receive the delegation materials. Director McMahon, Director Inkster, all in favor? Done. Thank you. Now we're into, well, we'll just give you a minute here. I have that somewhere here. Oh, yeah. There it is. So our next delegation will be Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development Organization. It'll be regarding the 2024 work plan, and you'll find them on page 25A and 25CC. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is John Sutherland, and I'm a director of Scredo. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. Our last time we were here, it was in front of the Finance Committee as part of Round 1 budget deliberations, and we were presenting Scredo's new strategic plan, which lays out a comprehensive plan for economic development, collaboration, and transparency, aligning Scredo's direction with priorities of local government. Today, we are here to share with you the 2024 work plan, which builds those priorities and puts them into action, providing a strong foundation for Scredo's work and setting the stage for economic growth and prosperity in the region. Today, we are seeking your collaborative input and engagement around feedback on the work plan, feedback on partnership and opportunities, securing approval for 2024 funding, and support for recruiting new directors. I'm going to pass it over to Colin, our Executive Director, for a quick review of the strategic plan and some highlights from the work plan, and then we'll look forward to hearing from you on any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin, go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can get to a full screen here. Or not. There we are. Great. So again, thank you very much for having us here. It feels like it wasn't that long ago when we were here sharing about our strategic plan. I want to acknowledge that Scredo's work does take place on the ancestral territory of the Shishalt and Squamish people, and certainly it is our aspiration to live up to those models of community and exchange that existed since time immemorial. As you may be aware, the mandate areas of our service agreement cover 7 broad categories, running from small business support to investment attraction and regional collaboration. We've been in front of the town of Gibsons and the district of Sechelt in the last couple of days, and have tried to then make visible what some of that work looks like on the ground. And so just quickly to give you some examples, when we preach about buying local and keeping our money coastal, one of the things we do each year is partner with Loco BC for Buy Local Week. And some of the companies that we've featured then are folks like Salish Soils and Sunshine Coast Air, working with them to identify the great procurement and employment practices that allow those dollars that we spend in their businesses to circulate more widely. We do coordinated service delivery of the regional pilot program, the provincial nominee program that helps us bring entrepreneurial families to the coast. Examples like Daria and her wonderful business Idea Space in Gibsons, or we have Gabenga Ayaremi and his family in Sechelt with Work Bay Tech Hub, and more recently Wei, who has moved to the coast from China and is looking to set up a yoga and wellness studio. Investment attraction looks like meeting with folks from Coho Commissary when they first come and visit friends on the coast and imagine a future here, supporting food entrepreneurs, working with them through site selection and partnership development, but also to make sure that they get integrated into the broader food system. For workforce development, we operate 3 Fuse work hubs up and down the coast. There we use those regular memberships, hot desks, and on-demand meeting space to subsidize and offset the cost for community groups to be able to get low and no cost access to much needed space, and that is a social enterprise that we operate. We think about livelihood entrepreneurs and lowering barriers for participation across the livelihoods continuum. Last year we worked with Seaside Artisan Market as well as Hatch and Hype, a program at the BC Farmers Markets, to make sure that we are providing opportunities for more than 150 different livelihood entrepreneurs to get their first taste of what it's like to take a product to market and to engage with new customers. Thinking about small business, a partnership with BC Marketplace to make sure that the Sunshine Coast is showing up with high visibility with a unique regional page. We work directly with 187 coastal businesses to help them get listings there. It's promoted not just here on the coast, but across the province. So as tourists are preparing to come and visit the coast, they know to keep the money in the wallet till they get here, and all those goods and services are available here. We also then are very aware, very busy working in partnership with other organizations, and you've probably seen us before you with work that we do alongside the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society and the Housing Action Table. For us, as we move forward now, and as our regional coordinator has her footings under her, it's all about turning our attention really to focusing on that missing middle housing, the attainable workforce housing that is so desperately needed. As we mentioned last time, we had an October 6th meeting of all the funders where it was made plain that it was really important for Scredo to reestablish regular communications with local government to make sure that we are compliant with the terms of our service agreement, the importance of demonstrating value for all of the partners, and the seriousness of having real accountability in governance and operations. The board heard that. We've mapped out all of those key dates and deliverables in the service agreement. We've brought our reporting up to date. We're having regular meetings, enhanced governance through new development of policies and practices. We have the new strategic plan and now a 2024 work plan that's been prepared for your feedback. Touching just quickly on that strategic plan, it really was about aligning our goals to local government's strategic plans, articulating our value to the community, and being accountable to funders and the public. It runs across 3 key result areas: entrepreneurial governance, strengthening the local economy, and collaboration and partnership. There are 11 goals underneath those 3 key result areas. To move those forward, we created the 2024 work plan. It is aspirational in its intent and certainly has been presented in draft form as an invitation for feedback. The scale and scope of the plan are consistent with those mandate areas that I shared, as well as the 2024 financial contributions that are defined in the service agreement. It shows a budget of $624,500. 40% of that is dedicated to operations, including staffing, communications, governance, and fully 60% of it directly into programs and projects. Our revenue of $626,000 comes through 4 different streams, the largest of which at 57% is from our service agreement contributions. We take in 14% in this budget from special project funding, a little more than 20%, and I anticipate that number will grow from grant funding from other sources, and then 7% from earned income from operation of our social enterprise. The significant focus areas in the work plan are investment attraction, society governance, and regional economic development planning. To touch on some of the projects that are in there, first and foremost, really are eager to work alongside our local governments to co-create a regional economic development plan. It is important to us that we have a vision of where we want the Sunshine Coast economy to be 10 years, 15 years from now. Having that laid out in a plan that has been co-created will allow us to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. That plan will also support revising the current service agreement that is set to expire at December 31st, 2025. The project itself could scale up or down depending on other sources of funding that we're able to secure. Along with CAO McKinley, I've also been having conversations with Island Coastal Economic Trust, with the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program at the province, as well as Pacifican about ways that they can support us in putting that plan together. When you develop a plan, you need to find a way to achieve it and bring the money in to make sure that you're achieving that vision, and so investment attraction is becoming very important for us. Building out a marketing plan that aligns our investment branding with the refreshed Scredo communications plan. And as importantly, really doing the program design to make sure that we are developing and managing leads that can then be converted into deals that lead to the generation of economic growth and employment, really putting the business operations behind it. As well, it is important for Scredo's board that we are investigating and instigating different visionary projects, supporting them with expert working groups, as well as doing the grant writing support to make sure that there is funding available for early stage discovery as well as business scaling. With a plan in place and with money coming into town, how does that money circulate well? And so we've been, again, speaking with staff and have recognized the need to do some review of some of the underlying issues that are related to low tender participation of projects for local governments. With that, it would be about defining those procurement objectives, including the demonstration of community benefits, knowing that the SCRD, the District of Sechelt, and the Town of Gibsons are all members of the BC Social Procurement Initiative. And then doing the market sounding to obtain feedback on how we can improve local and regional private sector participation. Aside from major projects, there's also then smaller amounts of government spending, and so being mindful then of implementing some of the best practice recommendations that we helped build into the vendor outreach guide with that British Columbia Social Procurement Initiative, And part of what we've been doing there is providing direct assistance for vendors, helping them to identify, to develop, and to really demonstrate the social value criteria that will allow them not only to create community capital, but to earn more points in those RFPs that are put out with a social value consideration. Circular economy is something that we've been working on for the last year and a bit with our partners at VICETA, which is the Vancouver Island Coast Economic Developers Association. We've successfully wrapped up phase 1 and are moving into a phase 2. We have funding applications in front of Pacifican, ICE-T, REDIP, and City Community Foundation, and looking to put together a really ambitious $1 million project over the course of 3 years. For there, it really is about helping to bridge that gap between the aspiration that we hear from so many entrepreneurs about wanting to adopt circular economics, but needing to better understand how to do that. The program involves new venture training. It involves coaching on business transition, as well as some deliberate cluster development. We are working with partners up and down Vancouver Island, and there's also some discussion of the Island Trust coming in as well. And finally, one more example. We've been giving a lot of thought to how do we demonstrate the prosperity of the region? What does it look like to come up with the right regional indicators that will not only promote investment readiness, but also demonstrate community well-being? And so here it's about coming up with a measurement framework that will guide our annual reporting and also support informed decision-making at this table and others. The broader framework is part of a trend that we're seeing around going beyond GDP, and you start to be able to then think about indicators. And I mentioned Nanaimo here because they were talking about it with their donut economics model, about being able to account for things like household disposable income, food security, the ability to attract talent. We think about urban tree canopy, this sort of broader assessment beyond just new business startups and employment numbers. But of course, the most important piece being that it's grounded in local values, economic goals, and priorities. So those are some of the bigger pieces that are in the work plan. Next steps, as John mentioned, for us is really about collecting feedback from government. We're fortunate to have Director McMahon attend our meetings and provide insight onto priorities for the regional district, but wanted to be here today to share the work plan and get more of that feedback and to understand what's required for approval of the plan. And then also did want to acknowledge that we're moving towards a spring AGM and would look forward to your assistance in recruiting new directors to make sure that that board is continuing to grow and strengthen. And so with that, I will end the presentation, turn off my screen, and put it over to you for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a lot of stuff in a quick slideshow. If you could drop your
just trying to get it back.
presentation here so I can see everybody.
There we go.
There we go. Now, directors, do you have any questions? Director Stanford.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm wondering if you could, through the chair, go through a little bit more detail on how you work with other regional development groups, or how do you deal with that in a cooperative manner versus competitive scenario as you're all working towards the same grants and monies through the provincial government?
Thank you for the question. We haven't encountered any conflict in that regard so far, is what's been really pleasing. And so when new grant opportunities come out, we often hear about those directly from our contacts, the province or the federal government. And then we share it as broadly as we can and invite anybody to have conversations. And so if an example would be something like the Roberts Creek Community Association. And when there's a REDIP plan coming out, they'll reach out to us and say, we really want to be mindful of how we can grow our activities. We want to have an events coordinator in place. And so it's meeting with them, saying, what does that look like? How might we support you? Are you finding the right connections into the provincial government in that case and the program staff? What do you need from us? Can we assist you with any of the grant writing? And so it's been wonderfully collaborative in that regard. When it comes into areas such as food security, we try to be mindful then of, are we meant to be the lead agency on this, or is it something like One Straw where this is something that they want to run with and we can come along and be a partner? It would be a similar conversation with Sunshine Coast Tourism. So when one looks at the program that Pacifican is offering right now around tourism growth, we'll meet with the Downtown Business Association, Chamber of Commerce members, and Sunshine Coast Tourism to say, if we're thinking of things like commercial tourist accommodation, how would we all like to do that? Who would like to be the lead agency? And so it's about getting everybody around a table first and finding out who brings what strengths to it and who would like to play lead. And so it's a really collaborative environment that we're existing in right now when it comes to regional economic development, and we're grateful for that.
Yes, follow up.
Thank you for the information. I should be more clear. I was thinking of other regional development organizations, such as on the island or the interior.
Perfect, thank you, and I apologize. I started thinking too locally. When it comes to regionally, and so Scredo is now serving as president on the executive for the Vancouver Island Coast Economic Developers Association, and there, again, provincial, federal funding announcements come to us as a group. We're often have the opportunity to ask questions, and we start then first with, is there something that we could do together, things like this circular economy pilot, or is this something that we want to be able to move forward individually? And there has been, most often in those funding programs, different allotments, and we haven't been overlapping with them. And it might be that it's a little bit harder for some of the neighboring communities on the island, but by the time you then come across the strait, we've been fortunate enough to have fewer folks competing. I think that's one of the strengths of having a regional economic development organization here.
Thank you. I believe Director Bax, please.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were helping with the workforce housing. And I was wondering if there's any details as to what that looks like and what Scredo offers to the various agencies, BC Housing or the Affordable Housing Society, in order to help facilitate this type of work.
Thank you. So Scredo holds a seat on the board for the Affordable Housing Society, and we're there by virtue of a few years ago there was a workforce housing society that was launched through Community Futures, Scredo, and a couple of other partners, and we realized quickly that it didn't make sense to have multiple and overlapping housing associations, and so could we demonstrate the change that we're hoping to see and bring those two together? And so in folding the Workforce Housing Society into the Affordable Housing Society, there were a number of us who then stepped onto the board. At the Affordable Housing Society, we then provide the executive oversight for the administration of that for that contract, that goes into the Regional Housing Coordination. Cover the Coast is the name of the program, and then we sit on the steering committee for the Housing Action Table, and so we're intimately involved in the governance of those projects when it comes down to focusing on workforce housing. Of course, this table has received the social and housing needs assessment that the Housing Action Table put out. It identified 4 core areas moving forward that were in need of assistance. One of those working groups is workforce housing, and so we've taken the lead on that. I suspect that many of you have also received an invitation then to an upcoming Day of Education that we're going to be hosting on February 14th, where we've brought in folks from Urban Matters to assist us to better understand all of the legislation that has come down from the provincial level, to understand funding sources that exist, as well as different models of workforce housing that are succeeding in other communities. And so we really try to show up and provide that additive capacity to keep that moving forward. In recent years, it's been a bit more widespread, but again, as I've mentioned, now that the Housing Action Table is up and running, we're able to channel our focus more into that workforce housing space. Does that answer your question? Great, thank you.
Thank you. Director McMahon, please.
Right. Thanks. I noticed somewhere in this package the suggestion that you would publish an annual report card and quarterly State of the Coast updates. Getting good data for the Sunshine Coast, as you know, is not easy. The province recently rolled out another fancy dashboard which promises all these layers that'll show you this and that, something else. If you try them on the Sunshine Coast, there's nothing there. They're empty. So I was just wondering, what sort of indicators are you hoping to share with us and keep track of?
Thank you for the question. You're absolutely right. Collecting data specific to the Sunshine Coast is a frustrating exercise. When it comes down to things like labor statistics, we get lumped in with the Lower Mainland to the point where it becomes almost useless to really look at. But we are able to track employment by sector. We're able to track the number of business and corporations by electoral area or municipality, and we've done that in 2021 and 2022 with our snapshot report, and we'll be doing that again to be able to track some of those longitudinally, but also then just involved in the advocacy work with provincial and federal staff to say, is there a reason why you couldn't sort by another column? Like if you're collecting this information by postal code, why not? And they tend to not offer an answer, but we are at least chatting with them about that. And in recent days, having some conversations with others about how we might make use of some of the new AI tech that's out there to be able to take different data sets and map them onto one another and see if we're able to tease out other ways of getting more nuanced info. But right now it is the available data sets then backed up with some of the surveying and qualitative interviewing that we can do in community.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. I know that it's technically a separate contract, but I'm wondering if we could hear from Scredo if they've got any early ideas on how we might transform Hillside. And if not, is that work that we do fully expect to see happen with that report this year?
Thank you for the question. So yes, that'll work. That'll be completed this year in the work plan. I think what's unique about the way that it's been positioned so far is this focus then on a broader triple bottom line approach to what can happen in the area. And so when you think about some of the great strengths that exist there now, operating inside of a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, being mindful of a demonstration before immediately adjacent to the demonstration forest, immediately adjacent to the industrial park, the opportunity to think about how to keep trees standing and use carbon offsets to be able to pay for other development of sites. I think there are a lot of more modern approaches to sustainable economic development that would allow us to paint those unique features of Hillside in a light that hasn't been considered before. And so that's what I think will be the difference this time.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. You mentioned grant writing support in your presentation. Was that to provide support to members for grant writing, or are you looking for grant writing support for Scredo?
A little bit of both. I mean, of course, certainly we take advantage of it, and we've benefited from working with some grant writers recently, not only on our own projects, but putting them onto some of our partners' projects as well. But we do want to make sure then we're increasingly hearing from private businesses and community who are coming to us and saying, I heard about this manufacturing fund. I have never written a grant in my life. And some of us sort of take it for granted, having been in nonprofit and community organizations for so long, that there is a bit of a game to it. There is strategy to it. And so we've been sitting down and working with them, but we recognize that there are others who are professional at that. And so the ability to provide professional support through those folks as opposed to just doing it ourselves. So a bit of both. So when community groups need help, we want to be there as well.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands up, so I'll ask another one. You mentioned circular economy, and I was curious what it is to Scredo. I think you were talking about business opportunities within the circular economy, but...
Thank you. Yes, it's a bit of both. I mean, part of it is that as you tell the story, others come up with great ideas, and it can be something as small as the company in Upper Gibsons who runs a countertop factory, and they had all their extra offcuts, and next thing you know, they're turning them into coasters that can be sold through a different channel. And I mean, that's one small example of it, but the bigger piece is the opportunity to think about how a construction industry can be mindful of deconstruction and what those goods that are being then diverted from the landfill could be repurposed into the creation of finishing for tiny homes. Its ability to sort of map out in a space what are those things that right now aren't being used, and how do those create opportunities for others. That exists locally, but also then the benefit of working through our partners in Viceta is that we're able to take that regional approach. And so think, are there other sort of key clusters that are happening on the North Island that make sense for us over here on the coast? How can we move back and forth between each other? And so we were successful in having 16 different business audits through the first phase of that program. The one locally here was done with Coastal Craft Yachts in Gibsons. In this next phase, we'll have space for 5 different deep dives here on the coast, but also then there are webinars and toolkits that are made available as well.
Thank you. I really like that answer. Now, I have another, oh yes, sorry, Director McMahon, please.
I just wanted to follow up on the grant writing. I know that our local governments do coordinate so that when there's a big grant opportunity, that we are not shooting ourselves in the foot by over-competing. And so in that space, then if Scredo is seeing a lot of who's planning to apply for what grants, it provides an opportunity to perhaps get people together and maybe they can get together on a grant or realize that they're up against a 500-pound gorilla and they don't need to put all their effort into it. Any comment?
You're spot on.
Did she just describe Dean as a 500-pound gorilla? So the last question that actually you asked us a question, and it was how would directors like to be involved? I was wondering if any directors had a comment or a thought on that. I do know I could start it off by saying when you're looking to recruit new directors for Scredo, I'm very keen to make sure there is one for my area. And if you don't get what you consider suitable applications when you put out a request, I would really appreciate it if you got a hold of me, and I will do some gentle persuasion. So that's my answer to your question. I would really like to help to make sure we got the right people there.
My other hat on the board is also chairman of the nominations committee, so if you would kindly forward any names to it, to us, would be much appreciative of, and gain input to get enthusiastic collaboration from all areas of the coast. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's very important. Director McMahon?
Yeah, in that vein, if there are any particular skills, abilities, demographics that you are looking for, then that would help us too.
Yes, there is, because we did have a director from Pender Harbor area, and he recently resigned, so we are looking specifically for that area. We have received one application from that area already, but we are looking for more, and so we have a vetting process we like to go through, and I sit on various not-for-profit boards, so we have a vetting process that I've honed from other organizations that I'm a board member of.
Yes, thank you. I think Bruce served quite well, but he's got some health issues, so I understand. Any other questions? Oh, well, thank you very much. That was very interesting, and I'm happy to see you here. So thanks a lot. So, beg pardon? Yeah, okay. Can I have a motion to receive the delegation materials, please? Yes, Director Inkster, Director McMahon, all in favor? Done. Okay, that was good. So I think the next item of business is reports. And so we're on to item number 5, which is Committee of the Whole recommendations number 1 and 3 to 12 of January 11th, 2024, which is Annex D, pages 26 to 30. Before we adopt these as a block, would the directors like to pull any of those? Seeing none, can I have a motion then to adopt those? Yes, Director Toth, Director Inkster, any discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. We then move on to item number 6, which is Electoral Area Service Committee recommendations number 1 to 4 of January 18, 2024. Annex E, pages 31 to 33. Would directors, before we adopt them as a block, would the directors like to pull any of those? Seeing none, can I have a motion then to Director McMahon, seconded by Director Gabius? Any further discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Done. We're on to item number 7, which is 2024 AVIC resolutions. Annex F, pages 34 to 35, and our corporate officer. Could you introduce those for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. So these resolutions are being brought back at the request of the committee in terms of possible amendment. I just want to remind the board that resolutions need to be endorsed today, that the deadline for ABICC is February 7th. So whatever is adopted today won't be coming back to the board again for second look. And whatever amendments we make, we'll be making them here in the meeting, should there be any.
Thank you. Director McMahon, please.
Yes, I have come to the conclusion that these are not perfect, but it's not worth perfecting them. We have other things to do. So personally, I am willing to move the adoption of these two resolutions.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Yes, Director Gabius. Any further discussions? No? All those in favor? Any opposed? No, that passes. We're now moving on to item number 8, which is on notice on title. It's Annex G, pages 36 to 39. Let me just get there. Mr. Kennett, would you like to introduce those for us, or JM Hall?
Oh, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I'll just offer a procedural introduction that typically at the last board meeting of the month, staff bring forward recommendations for placement of notice on title when we become aware of building conditions that contravene our bylaw. It's a non-punitive measure designed to protect the regional district and to protect future owners, and can be removed once the situation is resolved. And as you noted, we have Chief Building Official Brian Kennett here if there are questions related to the two properties for which staff are recommending placement of notice on title. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, do you have any questions about these two? Oh, yes. Is there any of the applicants that would like to talk to these notice on title? Let's see, is there anybody in the gallery with their hand up? No, none electronically? No. Okay, and none in the gallery. Okay. I do note that one's Director Gabius.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the owners of one of the homes that are in here. I had a quick chat with them just before the meeting, and I'm glad that they are here today, and I'm glad that they're started doing the work to get into compliance, so thank you very much for that. And again, as GM Hall said, it is not punitive, it's just a kind of a guarantee that the work will be done, protects the SCRD, protects potential buyers in the future, so thank you for being here and for doing the work, and I really appreciate it, but I think it is a good thing for us to put that notice on title, and please keep going, and hopefully, it'll be resolved soon, so thank you.
Thank you, Director Gabius. That's great comments. I have one in my area as well, and I know they're working on it, but they couldn't provide names to me, so I guess we'll just do what we do. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the recommendation? Yes, Director Gabius, second by Director McMahon. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? No, that passes. Thank you. Okay. I think we have no communications that I have here, but we do have a notice of motion.
notice of motion first.
Yeah. Yeah, notice of motion first. Typically with a notice of motion, it's just that we're going to have it presented at a future meeting. But if anybody, I believe it's Director Gabius has put this forward. Would you have any comments before we put it forward, or would you hold those till when we discuss it?
No, no comments, just gonna follow the procedure and talk to it when we get to it.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Does nobody else has any questions? Okay, so I would suggest that we will refer this to the February 8th COW to discuss. Corporate officer, would that be acceptable?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that would be the correct procedure, and it will come forward on that agenda and can be moved into debate and discussion then.
Okay, so moved, seconded. All those in favor? Passed. Thank you. So, the last, well, not quite the last. We're now on to bylaws. It's Sunshine Coast Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 763 of 2024, Annex H, page 39 to 45. Corporate Officer, could you introduce this for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if a security issuing has come before this board yet, but regional districts use security issuing bylaws to access long-term debenture debt for themselves, but also for our member municipalities. And this is administered through the Municipal Finance Authority of BC, also known as MFA, and it's done for all local governments in the province of BC. Staff have received a request from the District of Sechelt to adopt a security issuing bylaw in order for the district to partake of the spring 2024 issue through MFA. The SCRD has received all required documentation from the District of Sechelt to authorize this borrowing. Staff are recommending 3 readings and adoption of security issuing bylaw number 763 in support of the District of Sechelt borrowing for their Parks Public Works Operations Center.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
I can't resist this question. Is the corporate officer aware of any instances where a regional district voted against a municipality's funding bylaw?
Thank you for the question. I'm not aware. Perhaps our CFO might be, but I'm not aware of any circumstance where that has happened.
We haven't done so far yet. Maybe we'll be the first. No? Yes, direct. Oh, okay. So can I have a motion to accept the recommendations on page 39, please? Yes, Director Toss, seconded Director McMahon. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. And so now we need to go to the bylaw. Where the heck is the bylaw? It's hiding here.
Page 40.
Page 40?
41.
Yes, there we go. Gotta get down to the bottom.
Give first, second, third reading, one motion.
Yeah. I'll do first, second, and third reading in one motion. I'll ask for one motion to do first, second, third reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 783 of 2024. Oops, it's 763 of 2024. So moved by Director Toth, seconded by Director Inkster. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. I'll now ask or a motion to adopt Sunshine Coast Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw Number 763 of 2024. So moved, Director Back, seconded, Director Gabius. Any discussions? No? All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. We failed to create history. Okay, let's move on to directors' reports. I suspect that we have a lot of directors' reports to do, and I'll just start from my left and move down the table. So, Director Stamford, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to start with events just from January, as December was so far away. January 9th, I had a special meeting as part of the Gambier Local Trust Committee for advancing zoning to support Connect the Coast. There'd been a glitch in the matrix in that we couldn't actually connect Keats to the new initiative for fiber optic to the island. So that was advanced quickly in order to take advantage of this important communications program that's supporting not just the islands, but other parts of the Sunshine Coast as well. January 12th, I attended via Zoom the Ocean Watch Committee, which is a joint group of members from the Howe Sound Biosphere. They speak to a number of emerging topics, specifically in the marine, and it can be anywhere from port policing in West Vancouver through to herring harvest advancements in Squamish in the estuary there. And it's a huge variety, including looking for green crabs. I think that's an issue that is potentially a big concern in Alcotsum Howe Sound. And I'd like to note that to date, despite quite a bit of searching, there has been no green crabs found in the Howe Sound area. That doesn't mean they aren't potentially coming in, but that is a huge issue as they're one of the most invasive species in the world, marine species. Other things, I'm continuing to get questions from the community water system at Eastbourne, and I'm hoping that I can work with staff to come up with a way to respond to their questions around how best to support their supply. And also another thing that I've been working on quite a bit is speaking to various levels of government about the New Brighton Dock. And I'd like to thank other members of the regional district, including Director/Mayor White, for helping me with this advocacy project. Incredibly important that we keep advancing this and find a solution for long-term ownership and maintenance of this critical piece of infrastructure. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I bet you had a much longer list, but that's okay. Thank you. Director Gavious.
Thank you, Chair, and I will focus my attention on the Seashell Library, since I am the board liaison there. And so if you haven't seen the news, there was a flood in the Seashell Library, and that came from upstairs, and I think the District of Seashell's offices were also affected. But anyways, the staff has been incredible at communicating what's happening, super professional, calm, collected. They've been keeping the board up to date on what's happening. They will be closed for some weeks now, but they've been doing a really good job at putting it out there, any updates. So unfortunate situation, but as Councillor Shepherd from District of Sechelt so eloquently said in his communications to the Sechelt Library is this one silver lining in this is that having the library closed for that period of time will open our eyes to the contribution that the Sechelt, like the effect that it has on the community. So I'm wishing them the best of luck, and I'm there for them if they need me.
Thank you, Director Gabius. Yes, it's they really contribute a lot to the community. You can tell when you visit and just watch the people going in and out, hanging on to the kids, taking them in. It's great. It's a great facility and service. I will skip it so I don't steal anybody's thunder, and I will move to Director Toth, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to tag on to the flooding issue at Municipal Hall, yeah, we expect to be impacted for sort of 2 to 4 weeks. The public reception area of Municipal Hall is closed. Staff were able to use the brand-new operations center, since they knew it wasn't going to be repoed on them, to set up a reception center for people that need to speak with District of Sechelt staff. So that's the facility on Dusty Road. As far as I'm aware, other than council and committee meetings, the Municipal Hall building is basically closed to the public because the lobby area is under construction as well. So we had a number of housekeeping amendments to our council procedure bylaw, just changing sort of the way we're doing our agendas and some of the voting requirements for amended agendas. We've also got new policies that are coming to us around filming in the District of Sechelt and the associated fees that go along with that. So we're really looking forward to trying to give Gibson's a bit of a run for its money in terms of filming activity. And yeah, look forward to seeing what's coming here. And then it could be a competition. I think the last thing I'm going to touch on is that we did extend our downtown security patrols. So I guess in the first 3 months that we've been running the program, it has proven to be quite effective. And we've got funding left over for an additional 3 months. So we're going to extend it further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, someone just pulled a knife over here. I don't know if it had to do with the rivalry between one side of Robert's Creek is on.
Oh, okay. Director McMahon, please.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a long time since we've done board reports. I went to a bunch of AGMs in the fall, and I expect a whole bunch more in the spring, but ones I went to in the fall were the Trails Society, TRAC, and Sunshine Coast Tourism. I, of course, attend Scredo, but I don't need to tell you about Scredo today because you just heard about them. Housing Action Table, I was at that meeting this week. Some takeaways, information there that I found interesting. The BC Building Code is changing to require elevators even for buildings that are quite small. And elevators are a huge problem on the coast. There is I believe, a North America-wide shortage of elevator technicians. And this just sounds like it's going to add to everybody's headaches. Folks may or may not have heard of HappyPad, which is a new online registry that connects homeowners with roommates for house sharing. Kylan Libby from HappyPad will be at the Sechelt Senior Center on February the 12th from 2 to 4 p.m. to give information about that. And they are hoping to also reach out to the Gibson Senior Center. And anyone else, you might send a suggestion to Kelly Foley at the Affordable Housing Society. I had a lovely social gathering with my APC volunteers on Tuesday night, and gosh, what a great bunch of people. We had a terrific time and gossiped shamelessly. So thank you.
I like that. Director Bax, please.
Yeah, on the 12th of January, I participated in a webinar on the draft biodiversity and ecosystem health framework that is being put together by the provincial government. And there was about 50 participants in the meeting. It was Parliamentary Secretary Rolly Russell, who's the in the Ministry of Rural Development, who was heading up the seminar, and I've arranged to meet with him in when we go away to the LGLA next week to talk more about his initiatives and how it can help with our community. On the 16th of January, I met with the Seniors Transportation Work Group, and we discussed, we had a bunch of other participants from other areas, the student transit people, and Vancouver Coastal Health was there, and we're discussing, and also one of the people who represents the Ferry Advisory Commission, and so we're working on perhaps creating a new Transportation Advisory Council. But we're specifically working on trying to improve transit opportunities for seniors on the Sunshine Coast. That evening was my OCPC meeting, and they elected a new chair. Elaine Futterman stepped down, and so the OCPC has a new chair, and they have and so that was the last time I gave a director's report. They demand a director's report from me at that point. On the 19th, I was a part of a Zoom call by the local Leadership United, who are tackling the toxic drug crisis here. Yesterday was announced that there was over 2,500 people in British Columbia died in 2023, 5% increase from 2022. The outgoing Chief Coroner, Lisa Lapointe, has a few sharp words for the government on this subject. On the 21st, I was at the cafe meeting with constituents when the power went out, and I looked out the window and I saw an electric arc on a telephone pole about 8 feet wide, and almost immediately our delegate from the Fire Safe, David McElwraith, showed up in car 1. He was actually just in the neighborhood when he got the call. And so I took the opportunity to explain to all the patrons of the cafe exactly how hydro burns branches off of wires in a pulsing manner. And then next week I'm meeting with thriving communities who are part of the Be the Change organization. They're working with that poverty reduction. It's a whole group of local elected and NGOs here on the coast, and we get together and we try to find out where we're overlapping, how we can support each other. We're creating a database that everyone can use, and you'll hear more about that. And I look forward to seeing everybody here in Richmond.
Yes, thank you. Not long before we'll be there. Director Inkster, please.
You won't be seeing me. You're not going? I'm not going. Yeah. Wishful thinking, right? Yeah, you won't be seeing me. Councillor Toth covered a number of the issues in Seashelt, damages to the library and the district offices, and the procedure bylaw changes, which is quite important for the council. I just wanted to mention a community thing, which I try to do here, is the Dine Out Seashelt is happening right now. So it's restaurants throughout the district, restaurants, cafes throughout the district with special dishes at special prices for the community. So you can try the food within those places. Just like Dine Out Vancouver, if people are familiar with that started a number of years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Director White, please.
Lots of great things going on in the town of Gibson's where lots of filming happening, blocking our traffic, and yeah, where it's okay.
Mayor says.
Yeah, yeah. But we love it. Yeah, one just to highlight one thing, it's being a huge priority for our town to get our OCP update going this term. It was a top strategic plan priority even before the provincial government came along and said all local governments need to update their OCPs and do them quicker from now on. So I believe our RFP deadline just finished, so very shortly we'll be choosing a proponent to move forward with it, and there'll be a lot of discussion over the next year and a half, probably, really taking up a lot of our time and attention in the town on renewing our official community plan. Part of that is a lot of innovative public consultation, starting with a residents' assembly, which we're partnering with SFU on. Their Morris J. Wask Center for Dialogue is partnering with us to have a randomly selected residents' assembly of 25 residents. People do need to self-identify first as being interested, and then there will be a random selection from there. Which is a really interesting way of doing things. And another aspect of that is that all the invites were sent out from Vancouver, where people don't know about the intricacies of and oddities of Gibson's addresses. So I think Area E might have been flooded with some invites to be at the town of Gibson's OCP. So there actually it won't be that random of a selection. We will assure the residents of Area E, no matter how many, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty who want to be involved, that they actually won't be selected. But yeah, it creates a little more work for us, unfortunately. But we're all familiar with this problem for years. Doing a lot of advocacy. I thought I'd look at my written council report that was in our agenda two days ago. So yeah, personally, I'm on behalf of the town. I'm working on a lot of advocacy, increasing childcare spaces. We're making some really great progress with that. Working with the provincial government and some nonprofits on that. Advocating on our policing issues and hoping that UBCM's recommendations years ago will be followed, where it will be a more incremental system of not dumping 70% of policing costs onto any municipality that hits 5,000, which is just a huge looming specter for us. And working a bit with the curling club on their taxation issues, which I think people have probably read about. It's a challenge for nonprofits to be hit by BC assessment. It might be something we need to look at in some provincial advocacy. I find it's as much as there's a lot of evidence that curling clubs around BC are taxed. I think so it's kind of hard for them to get out of that. The fact that BC assessment just shows up and kind of taxes people retroactively, nonprofits retroactively, is really problematic. And that's an issue here for them, kind of scrambling for money and looking for exemptions and things and creative ways to deal with this. Doing lots of housing work. There's always lots of advocacy there as well. We're working on Shaw Road Phase 2, hoping that can just continue on when the Phase 1 is done this summer, and we'll have funding lined up for that to be ready to go. That'll be 33 more units. And long-term care, always an issue, talking about getting more spaces. It's I think it's a positive thing. I haven't heard any direct reports, but apparently the move of all the residents from Totem and Shorncliffe has happened. now. It was supposed to happen at this time of the month, and we've got we've got empty rooms and hallways in Totem and Shorncliffe. Now I guess waiting for a capital study to be done about like what can we do with them temporarily is all the communications we got from Vancouver Coastal Health. So I think we all have a role in advocating for that and making sure that really does happen right now, so that we can make the most of our Vancouver Coastal Health facilities here and get some programs in there. Now, speaking of that, recovery and harm reduction, as Director Bax was speaking of, is another concern I'm working on all the time. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very interesting. I'll try and keep it a little shorter. Actually, I must say I appreciated the lunch and learn we had on this Fire Smart on January 11th. That was a great presentation. I forgot to say thank you to staff. Then on January 13th, up in Pender Harbor, we had our very own emergency preparedness, neighborhood emergency preparedness. And we had Nancy Hughes and Aaron Wilson up to talk on how to get prepared and Fire Smart itself. It was very well attended. There was over 100 people there. My alternate director, Christine Alexander, had set it up and worked with Nancy to get it going. And we had the reps from the Pender Harbor Volunteer Fire Department, BC Ambulance, RCMP, RCMSAR, and SAR, and the Armed Forces, all describing what their role is when there is an emergency like that, and what they do and what you can expect from them. And the agenda was like, how is Pender Harbor prepared for emergencies? What can I learn? What's going on in an emergency? How can I be involved? And what our real focus was is, how do I start a neighborhood emergency preparedness program? That's what Christine was advocating for. And I think we're going to do that. And if it works out as well as we think, maybe we can strong arm Christine to help you guys get something like that going. I'm volunteering her. And the last thing is, I really enjoyed the budget at the Seashell Nation. They were very welcoming, very friendly, and it was an excellent presentation tailored to the Seashell Nation, which actually opened my eyes about their taxation structure and how it worked, because of course they were inputting and asking questions and how it fit in. And it was very great, very good. And I attended the 6 o'clock last night, public one, along with 3 others or 4 others. How many were there, CFO?
He said there were
4? Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shame because it was such a great presentation. But anyways, it'll be recorded and people can go watch it. So hopefully next year we can beat the bushes a little better with a club and flush them out and get them to come to the presentation. That's what we're going to need to do. So that's it. And we have, by the way, directors, thanks for your reports. I actually enjoyed it. Maybe we have to have it every 3rd time or something. Yeah. No new business, but we do have in camera that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A of the Community Charter. Yes, I see a motion made by Director Toth, seconded by Director Gabius. Any further questions? No? All those in favor? Okay, we're going to go in camera. Let's take just a quick minute to get that done. Welcome back to the Thursday, January 25th, 2024, regularly scheduled board meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn? Director Toth, Director McMahon, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.